Shakespearean sonnet consists of 3 quatrains and 1 couplet, whereas Petrarchan sonnet consists of an octave and a sestet. Poems or all the sonnets of Shakespeare is actually referring to some fair youth, that is some person in his life whom he doesn't want to reveal. Assonance and consonance, as I said, assonance is a repetition of vowel sounds, consonance is a repetition of consonant sounds. Hello everyone, I am Dr. Shalini, Professor of English, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Today we are here with one of the poems prescribed by University of MYSURU for first sem B.Ca. Today we are going to understand about one of the important poems. So let us see what is there in today's session. We are going to understand about one of the sonnets by Shakespeare. So in this session we are going to understand about the poet, then about the title, then the theme of the poem. We are also going to understand the summary, then we'll get to know the poetic devices and the conclusion. So let us begin with the introduction of the poet. So here's William Shakespeare, who has written this sonnet when in disgrace. So William Shakespeare, as you already have known because you have been studying about Shakespeare from a very young age. So Shakespeare is regarded as one of the foremost dramatists of his time. So he has written more than 30 plays, which all are equally important, and he has written more than 100 sonnets, and he has all written it in the form of 3 quatrains and a couplet. So, and this is now recognized as Shakespearean sonnet. So, there are 2 types of sonnets, as you already know. We have already learnt it in the physical classes. We have learnt about Shakespearean sonnet and Petrarchan sonnets. So, Shakespearean sonnet consists of 3 quatrains and 1 couplet, whereas Petrarchan sonnet consists of an octave and a sestet. So, let us understand about this sonnet now. So, a quatrain is a set of 4 lines and a couplet is a set of 2 lines. So, 4 lines comes in the beginning and in the end it is the couplet that is there as conclusion. So, let us go forward with the title. The speaker, you can say, who is the poet also, he is not simply in disgrace, he is not happy to have a bad fortune. Okay, so nobody likes to be in bad fortune, isn't it? So the speaker also in this poem is in the similar way only. So rather he is in disgrace because of some reason. What is it? He is in disgrace with fortune, which gives a fortune a measure of power over his life. So the power to give and then to withdraw, then to grace. So let us understand in detail when we go to understand the summary of this poem. So let us now move on to the theme of the sonnet. So the major themes in sonnet 29. So this is the sonnet 29 written by Shakespeare. The major themes that are there are anxiety, love and jealousy. So because of love there occurs jealousy. So these are the major themes that are there in this sonnet. The poet actually discusses about his miserable plight, that is his situation, and the impact of love on his life. So these are the things he discusses in this sonnet. This poem also explains how love brings some optimism, how love can be optimistic in one's life, and also how it creates hope for people who feel lonely and they are oppressed. So the effect of love on one's life is discussed in this sonnet. In short, we can say that sonnet 29 is also about self-motivation, how he motivates himself due to the effect of love on his life. So this form of the sonnet is like that, it consists of 14 lines. So sonnet, you already know that it is a poem of 14 lines. So similarly here also it's a poem of 14 lines. The Shakespearean sonnets are usually rhythmic and this has the rhyme scheme AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF and GG. So the first quatrain, second quatrain, third quatrain and the couplet. So this is how the Shakespearean sonnet has the rhyme scheme. So the quatrains and couplets are here. So let us now move forward to understand the summary of this poem. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state. and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed. So all the poems or all the sonnets of Shakespeare is actually referring to some fair youth, that is some person in his life whom he doesn't want to reveal. Okay, so it talks about some person in life who has taken away his love. So here also he talks about that same person. He is in disgrace because the love of his life has been taken away by that fair youth. So he is comparing his skills, he is comparing himself to the other person. Okay, so here we can see there are two quatrains over here. So the first four lines we will consider. So these are the four lines we need to consider. These all constitute as a quatrain. So now you can see the rhyme scheme over here. Eyes and cries rhyme. So I am giving a giving name to this rhyme scheme over here, and state and fate rhyme. So here you can give it as B. So it is logically proven that AB is the starting rhyme scheme of the first quatrain. Similarly, this goes on. It is something like mathematics that we have to prove over here. So the proof is there in front of you. Okay, so you can see the rhyme scheme over here. Let us now move on to the summary. So he is talking about his disgrace. So he is disgraced with fortune, that is fortune is not favoring him. The fortune is not in favor of Shakespeare, he says, that is the speaker, and men's eyes. So the other person who has taken away the love, so he is in disgrace with those men. He all alone beweeps, means he cries inside only, he cries. It's not that he is sitting and weeping, he cries inside only. My outcast state, the state in which he is in, that is making him cry, weep inside, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries. So these cries are actually useless. It is of no use for him. It doesn't give him any hope. It doesn't give him any development. It doesn't inspire him in any way. But how he has to take it is what all matters. So it is actually, God is not listening to his cries only. Okay, so all his cries have been going as a vain. So it is all going as a waste only. And look upon myself and curse my fate. So he is crying, at the same time he is cursing himself. He is cursing his life because he is in that state. Wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed. So his friends all have skills. So the speaker, maybe he doesn't have so many skills that his friends have. So he is comparing one of the persons over here. So like him refers to that fair youth over there. Okay, so the speaker, that is the poet, is not as skilled as that person whom he is talking about, is what the poet means over here. So here you can see, if at all I give it as C, this doesn't rhyme with this word, so I can give it as D. So when we go to the next that is the next part of this quatrain, you can see that there are rhyming words. And you can also see that the sentence doesn't end over here. Okay, it forces you to go to the next line and read it. Okay, so the sentence doesn't end. That means this is also a literary device that is used by the poet, which I'll be talking about it in the last slide. So next, going on to the second part of the quatrain. Now that rhymes with this, the previous one, and here also you can give it as D. Let me just go back to the previous slide. Hope and possessed, scope and list. Okay, so this is what rhymes. So again the rhyme scheme of the second quatrain comes to CD. So coming back to the summary of it, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy, contented least. So he is comparing his skills to those of the person who has taken his love. So he is comparing this man's art, that is the speaker's art, and that man's scope and that person's skills, that person's attractiveness, or the skills that person has, the qualities that other person has, with what I most enjoy, contented least. I don't enjoy those skills as much as I enjoy myself. Okay, so he enjoys his skills the best compared to the other person's skills. So he is contented with whatever he has. That is what is the message he is giving it to you. Do not compare yourself to others. You have to be happy with whatever you have, is what he is trying to say. So these two lines mean that. Then we'll move on to the third quatrain. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, Happily I think on thee, thee is you, okay, and then my state. He has all these thoughts within himself, okay, but at the same time he despises, that means he decides what to do. So he happily thinks on thee. So he thinks about that person, that is you, the person he is talking about there, that is the lady he is talking about, and then my state and the state in which he is in. So again he is comparing. He is comparing, at the same time he is feeling that he is happy with whatever he has. He should not be comparing that with whatever he has with that of others. Like to the lark at break of day arising, from sullen earth sings hymns at heaven's gate. So he is talking about the lark, the skylark. The skylark is a bird that rises during the time of the dawn, symbolizing a new beginning. So here also he is talking about the new beginning. So he is talking about the change of state of his mind. So he has compared his skills to others. He has compared himself with others, and he says, I am happy with whatever I have. Now this will be the new beginning. Like the lark rises at the break of the day. When the sun rises, even the skylark rises and starts the new beginning, the new day. Same way, as the sun rises, there is a new beginning in my life also. The skylark symbolizes the new beginning in life. From sullen earth sings hymns at heaven's gate. So it rises from earth and goes to heaven and sings at the heaven's gate. So he is talking about the skylark, that is the lark, the bird over here, which symbolizes the new beginning. So here you can see despising, arising are rhyming over here. Again the rhyme scheme, you can mark it as like this. Okay, my state and gate. So state and gate, it is rhyming. So EF and EF. Okay, so this is the rhyme scheme, and this quatrain carries the rhyme scheme EF and EF. Okay, then we come to the last couplet over here. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. So here you can see these two are rhyming. So here you are giving a name for this. So the last, that is the couplet, carries the rhyme scheme HH. Okay, so he is talking about his love. For thy sweet love, for your sweet love that I remembered, what kind of wealth it brought. So he is comparing the previous situation when the love had come to his life. So that love which you brought to my life, actually he compares that to the state of the kings, the richness of kings. That means when that lady was there in his life, when he had that love of his life in his life, that time he was as rich as kings. Means he was not equal to anybody, he was much elevated, he says. So such is the power of love. So when she brought love to his life, he was much more, no way comparable to anybody else on earth, he says. But at the same time he gets inspiration from that. He concentrates on improving himself, because he now compares his skills with others. Maybe the lady who has gone thinks that the skills which she is attracted to is not there in the poet or the speaker. So the speaker thinks I should work on those things and I should inspire. That means he motivates himself to improve the skills which he doesn't have. So this is the summary of When in Disgrace. We need to understand the poetic devices to understand the poem better. So first thing we need to understand here is the literary device, that is assonance. Okay, assonance is the repetition of vowel sound. Okay, repetition of vowel sound in the same line, such as, for example, the repetition of this word I. Okay, the sound E. Okay, wishing me like to one more rich in hope. Again, E sound is repeated over here. I am not telling I letter is repeated. I am telling E sound is repeated over here. At the same time, the sound of A is also repeated. That is, the letter E is repeated. Happily, I think on thee and then my state. Okay, so thee, then my state. So all these places A sound is repeated. Okay, it can be long, it can be short, but there is repetition of vowel sounds. Assonance and consonance are those literary devices which are commonly found in most of the poems that are written. Okay, so this is one of the literary devices. The second one is imagery. Imagery is something wherein you get an imagination, you get a picture of that as soon as you read the poem. So here imagery is used to make the readers perceive things involving their five senses. Okay, so it just gives you the imagination. So for example, if I all alone beweep my outcast state. So this is one imagination. So you imagine about somebody sitting and weeping, somebody just sitting there very lonely and sitting and weeping. So this can be an example of imagery. That then I scorn to change my state with kings. So he is comparing his state with that of the kings. So that also gets you an imagination. So this you can consider under imagery. Okay, so we have few more. The other one is consonants. Assonance and consonants, as I said, assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. Consonants is the repetition of consonant sounds. So here you can see the sir sound is repeated, yet in these thoughts, so sir sound is repeated, myself almost despising. So sir sound is continuously repeating over here. So this is called as consonants. Then we have personification. Personification is something wherein the inanimate objects are given life. So you treat an inanimate object, a lifeless object, with full of life. So we can see one example over here. From sullen earth sings hymns at heaven gates. So here the earth only sings at heaven's gate is what the poet says. So earth is an inanimate object. It doesn't have life. There is life on earth, but within earth there is no life. So he talks about earth and he gives a life to that earth. Okay, so he talks about earth singing. Then here Shakespeare has personified earth here. So you can imagine that. At last we have symbolism. So there is something that symbolizes another thing. So what is it? He uses symbols to depict some prominent thing over here. In this poem, he symbolizes lark, that is the skylark, that is a new beginning, which is hope and good fortune, or something like it brings you good fortune. Okay, lark is a new beginning, as I said before. So good fortune, a new beginning, or some hope, ray of hope, something like that. So all that is symbolized by this word lark. Okay, so these are the literary devices that are used over there. We also have alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of sounds in the beginning of the word. Assonance and consonants, it can be in the middle of the word also in the same line, but alliteration is supposed to be in the beginning of the word only. So let us see an example. Happily I think on thee and then my state. So this the sound is repeated in the beginning of the word. So this is an example of alliteration. At last we have enjambment. Enjambment, as I said before, the sentence doesn't end in the first line. It moves on to the next line also. It forces you to go to the next line and read. So it is defined as a thought in a verse that does not come to an end at a line break. Means the first line, the sentence doesn't end. You have to go to the next line in order to get the complete meaning. So that is what enjambment means. It continues to the next line also. For example, for thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, the sentence doesn't end here. Okay, you have to go to the next line. If you see, the whole sonnet itself is like that. Okay, so in the quatrain also you cannot get the complete meaning there. You have to go to the next line. So this is one example I have given over here. Okay, brings that then I scorn to change my state with the kings. So here he is talking about the state of kings, and in order to get the complete meaning, you need to go to the next line also. Though it starts with a capital letter, the sentence is not complete over here. The meaning is not complete over here. So these were the literary devices that are used over here. So to conclude, I'll just tell you the summary in few lines. So the final lines, that is what we saw, the couplet. Okay, so when in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, they summarize the previous 12, the last two lines, that is the couplet. They actually summarize the 12 one. So what do they say? They state very clearly, okay, the meaning is very clear in the last two lines, that the fair youth's love is the only thing that brings the speaker happiness. The lady who had brought love to his life, it had brought a lot of happiness to the speaker's life, and he feels very wealthy in those moments. He compares himself to the state of the kings. So he was very rich. The happy moments and all he keeps on recalling. So there is no one that he would rather trade places with. He is not ready to exchange those moments with anybody else, is what the poet is trying to say. So that was all about the summary of When in Disgrace. I want you to go through the poem and then go through the summary again. So you'll be understanding the poem better. So thank you for your time. Let us meet again in another session with another poem prescribed by the university. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.